Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our latest listener questions episode. Over the next 45 or so, we're going to ask what would happen if Christian Pulisic had chosen Croatia instead. We'll see if it makes sense to deliberately concede corners. We'll rank Man United's post-Ferguson managers and much, much more. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, Mr. Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor. How are you?
I am doing well, my friend. Always enjoy a listener questions episode. Always enjoy being here with you, fine fellows.
Ah, very kind of you to say so. Joining us in the vicinity, Mr. Joe Lowry. Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm great. I think you're better than fine, Ryan. I think you're great also. Taylor only thinks you're fine. Don't listen to Taylor. Listen to me.
Evergreen advice. Thank you very much. Indeed, Joe.
I don't know if I'd go that
It really
far,
is. It really is.
All right. Graham Rutherford's in the area. Hi, Graham.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. You're all right. Sometimes.
Thanks.
That's for a Scottish person. That is the highest praise you'll have ever seen.
Good as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best you think. That was almost like a hug from you.
It was.
Yeah.
That was my vows, actually.
You'd eight. Should do it then.
That's it. Yeah.
Graham, you
Well,
probably
were
cried at
there.
your wedding, right? You probably.
What, the price?
I mean, yeah. There was a point, but it was only because I spotted someone in a classic Tigres shirt over in the in the gallery.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, you were there as well.
Yeah.
It was Graham in a mirror that he spotted is what made him cry.
Yeah, that was it.
Graham's bachelor party was just a trip to the Classic Football Shirts warehouse. Oh, look, Shaq Dodd X third kit from 2007, guys.
Oh, man.
In the flesh.
It wasn't that, but it should have been. That's what it should have been.
Oh, that's a great mental picture you've just created, Ryan. I'm having a great time with that.
Very good. All right, listener questions incoming. Before we get there, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is a very good way indeed to contact us if you'd like to submit a listener question. We have a Discord server where all the cool kids are hanging out. Go in there and check it out. We've also got bonus episodes on the feed there, including, but not limited to, our most recent bonus episode, a quiz, a transfer quiz. Did this player move to Saudi or Turkey? It's trickier than it seems. Join us on the bonus feed, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, the best way to support us, please. And thank you. All right, let's get to our listener questions. First up, Pete Johnson has been in touch with this one. If Christian Pulisic had opted to play for Croatia, would he have improved them for the 2022 World Cup and potentially helped them win it? Now, Taylor, Christian Pulisic has a Croatian grandfather. It's allowed him to get a Croatian passport to work in the EU at a German club, of course. What would it have looked like if he'd have gone to Croatia? I mean, would he have been in that golden generation team? Would he have been in a World Cup final in 2018?
Yeah,
Ooh,
I think he probably is in there. Or maybe not in 2018. It's 2022. I think he's very much involved in the conversation.
When was he playing? He was playing national team in 2018, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
He
The
was,
U.S.
yeah.
were not playing much at the national team-wise in 2018, but
might have been.
He was, yes.
I think 2022 is where I see him having an actual impact and potentially starting for Croatia. Not on the left wing. I don't think he replaces Ivan Perisic. I think that is Pericic's spot forever and always, even now, maybe. However, Mario Pasalic on the other side, he is routinely substituted in the 2022 World Cup, including at halftime of one game, maybe two. So I don't feel like he was definitely like the nailed-on lockdown guy, and it does feel like Pulisic could have gone in there and potentially challenged, potentially won that starting spot. So he could have been starting in a World Cup final, right? At least World Cup semis. It would be interesting because this summer when Modric signed for Milan, I think there was the report that he asked Pulisic, like, "How much you're Croatian, right? How much Croatian do you speak?"
There's a
He's like,
video
"No,
of it.
I'm a fake Croatian. I don't speak any of that." So it would be
doesn't say his
interesting
name
for him
right.
to have gone there, right? Yeah, and he says his name wrong. So there's reasons why it would have been interesting. He would have had to probably become Pulisic at that point, right?
Yeah,
Or at least that's what everybody would have called him nonstop.
Yeah,
so
true.
eventually it would have
And-
morphed that way.
So instead of just most people calling him that, it would have been
Right,
everybody.
everybody.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hang on,
Yeah,
now I'm
there's-
confused as to what I call him.
There's a video of that
Mark
of
and Kelly's sons.
Modric.
right.
Pulisic's getting some like physio treatment or something, and Modric asks him like, "Oh, so do you speak Croatian?" And it's all a little bit awkward because I don't think Christian Pulisic speaks a word of Croatian. He does admit that. He holds his hand up to be fair.
he's
and says, nah,
He does speak very good German and Italian to his credit, though. So I
There we
bet
go.
he could learn.
more than me.
But there's more worlds to conquer. Disappointing Luka Modric there on your first interaction actually might crush me. Probably doesn't crush Christian Pulisic because he's accomplished a lot of stuff, and I haven't. But that would sting a little bit. I mean, Taylor, I think I had this similar answer to you. I think Christian Pulisic is absolutely in that 2022 World Cup squad. And more than that, I think he's a regular starter for them. Although we did see a lot of rotation, even beyond just Pasalic for Croatia throughout that World Cup for that third attacking spot along with Perisic and Kramaric. Still, I think two things can be true here in classic TSS fashion. He improves Croatia. Certainly would have played for them in 2022. They still weren't winning that World Cup, is where I fall on this. I don't think Pulisic is anywhere close to a difference maker at the level where they get past Argentina in that semifinal that they lose 3-0. We know how good Argentina and France were and how amazing that final was. I just don't see Pulisic being a guy who changes their fate in that kind of way. But who knows, right? Soccer's a weird sport on its own. Soccer in a knockout format, single game, is on some sort of a high-level drug. So maybe you get a change, and maybe Pulisic shakes the space-time continuum enough. But realistically speaking, if we're talking about on quality, are they one of the two best teams, or would they win that semifinal against Argentina solely because they added Pulisic and took somebody out of that equation? I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, they got thumped 3-0 by Argentina in that semi-final. So I don't think any one player would have changed that game when it was so one-sided. And if I was picking one player, it would probably be a top-level defender who can defend open space, because that's how Croatia got killed by Argentina in that match. And Christian Pulisic is not that player.
With a good back four as well for that semifinal. Borna Sosa's on the left, Gvardiol's through the middle, Lovren's in the middle of that back line, and then Juranovic, right, was the right back for that game. They had, I mean, it's a good team. It's a really, really good team. It gets weaker as you move up each line of the field, which again is why I think Pulisic would really play for that group. And he'd play on the right as well, which I think still might be his best spot in that front three. But Pulisic, a space-eating defender, is not.
I cannot abide this Joe Croatia midfield slander. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know why Joe hates Croatia's midfield.
Sorry. Yeah, that was poorly expressed. The midfield's awesome. Like, that's the clear strength of the team. But the attack is the weak point, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Is even Rakitic in there? Is that what it is?
No, he didn't start. So it's a great midfield.
It's a vestige of Joe hating Ivan Rakitic. No, it was Kovacic, Modric, and Brozovic.
Yep.
That's a pretty good three.
And then
different bomb
Pulisic.
squad, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Rakitic did start the 2018 game against the same team that Croatia won 3-0. So, you know, there's maybe something.
And he led them to a World Cup
and he scored as well.
a victory. Oh, no.
Sprightly and young.
Well, they lost.
I think is how we'll describe that.
They
that
lost.
line for sure. Would Pulisic have made the 2018 squad at least? Surely he'd be in the
Yeah, squad surely. He's like at the time the US don't qualify, he's like the guy for the US, right? At that time, he's obviously still very young.
I think he's not, because I think maybe just because he's young, but like he avoids a lot of the stigma of failing to qualify. I feel like that's
he was
like
a child.
Bradley, like it's a Bradley, Dempsey, Altidore. I feel like are the ones who kind of, and maybe Dempsey's a little bit long in the tooth at that point. I feel like he was like playing every other game. But I think it's like Bradley, Altidore are the ones who are seen as, like, you guys are the reason why. Pulisic, I think, is just like the small child crying on the field when they don't qualify. So I still don't know if he is at the level in 2018 to be in that Croatia team. Maybe he's in the squad.
He had just played 2,300 minutes for Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite his breakout season. That was probably the year before, where he had 10 goal contributions. He had 9 that season leading into the World Cup. He certainly would have been on that roster for Croatia. And I think, actually, he didn't get the blame for that because everybody could see the blame for Kuva because everybody could see how good he was. I mean, earlier in that qualifying cycle, I very much do think Pulisic had become the guy with some of his goals at home in that cycle. But the timing of his rise, everybody knew that the failure wasn't his fault. So I think he gets into that squad for Croatia. It probably doesn't play much in 2018, given how good that team was as well. But obviously, if he'd been a central midfielder, he would have started every game.
He played, I can't see the minutes, but he played 85 games in the 2 seasons prior to that World Cup for Dortmund. So I think it's a safe bet that he would have been in that squad.
You can't have a giant eagle tattoo and play for Croatia, though. That's where it fails, surely.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
I feel like the Eastern European Eagles got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say Dejan Lovren.
Yeah.
Known
I was going to say, there are
what
some
I know about him.
other eagle things going on in that area of the world, to be fair. Pete Johnson, thank you very much indeed for your question. I tell you what, we're going to take a little pause because we've got a big one coming up next, and it's to do with Man United and their managers. Rubs hands with glee. Join us shortly. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. Bry Guy has been in touch with this one with Ole, Jose and Ten Hag, all finding themselves back in the job market. It made me wonder, says Bry Guy, how would you rank the managers at Man United since Sir Alex Ferguson retired? Would you take any of those, interims included, over Ruben Amorim?
This has to be a troll job, right? We all agree this is just specifically asked to troll me. I think, are we? Are we all on the same page? Manchester United and ranking managers.
Yes.
This chair's
Yes,
awfully
Joe.
comfy, and my
This
vocal
is all
cords are
about
feeling
you.
awfully strained.
Did I include my pseudonym in that? Yeah, I did. Bry Guy. Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely not me.
Yeah. Main
Troll
character
job.
syndrome much, Joe?
Yeah, actually, in this case, a little bit.
To remind you, dear listener, of the managers we've had since Sir Alex hung up his...
It's going to be a long list.
Now you're trolling Taylor.
Yeah.
So we started off, of course, with David Moyes. Then, of course, we had the wonderful reign of Ryan Giggs for
Yeah, we
4
left him
games.
off the list.
Oh, he doesn't count, surely. We're just doing permanent managers, aren't we?
Interims included in
Interims
Braga's
included, but I
question.
left
man.
Ryan Giggs
They're
off
just
my list
all
the
bottom
same.
then.
Very well. Next up, speaking of all bottom, Louis van Gaal was next up there. Jose Mourinho, then, of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Michael Carrick for 3 games. And one I completely forgotten about but shouldn't have. Ralph Rangnick, of course, coming in and being all Ralph Rangnicky. Then Erik ten Hag. Then Ruud van Nistelrooy for 4 games before he went on to pastures terrible. And then Ruben Amorim, of course. So, Taylor, how we ranking?
I have sort of 4 tiers. I'll jump in to say. And I think number 1 is one name only. It's the only person who I think came out of Manchester United with their head held high and with a
Michael
little
Carrick.
bit of like, I mean, I guess you could. I have the interims as their own category, basically. But Ralph Rangnick is the only one I think comes away certainly not unscathed. He is plenty scathed in his time at Manchester United. But I think for his sort of comprehensive diagnosis of the problems and how endemic they were, how deep they went, how much work needed to be done, and that report was basically completely dismissed as like wrong / not what the club wanted to hear. So fingers in the ears and out the door he went. I think he is the only one who seemed to have a realistic understanding of the full situation, and I think that he stuck to his guns in the end is a credit to him. So I have it as Rangnick by himself. Then in the second category, I would say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Jose Mourinho. I think with hindsight being as it is, those were times when there was a little bit of joy, there was enthusiasm, there was a feeling that maybe things are improving, even if they were very short term. Then the third tier would be the interims, Ruud van Nistelrooy and Michael Carrick. Both times it felt like, that's fun. Former players that you're not going to be the long-term solution, but it's cool to have you in there. It's cool to have you doing something. And then the kind of rest of tier would be led by David Moyes, then Louis van Gaal, then Erik ten Hag on the bottom.
Interesting. Okay.
That's it for me.
So, Taylor, would you take Rangnick over Ruben Amorim at this point, to Brian Guy's question?
I'm going to get to this in my rankings. Rangnick did have a win percentage of 38%. Like, I think a lot of what he said was absolutely bang on. He might have been a great sporting director, which was meant to be the plan, right? He was meant to be brought in to then reshape the behind the scenes, and then
and then he was like, "We have to reshape behind the scenes."
Yeah.
Like, no.
Oh, we didn't mean
No.
We didn't mean that. As a manager, I think Rangnick was. I mean, it's a time where I can't really remember much about that team. Really, it's been memory hold. But 38% was his win percentage. I don't think that team was particularly good, and that was worse than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer by quite a distance. I think he's quite down. He's quite far down in my list.
It's fair. I think his argument, certainly his argument, I don't know if it's anybody else's, would be that he was brought in to like figure out the team and diagnose the problems. So winning, I don't think was as much of a priority for him given where they were in the season, given how it was going, as much as it was, let's figure out if there are pieces that work, if there are components that can stick around or we can develop further, or we can try in different areas, and which components, which players should be moved on. So I don't fully begrudge him that, especially since I was inclined to give Ruben Amorim apparently an entire season of preseason to figure things out. So less criticism for me for Rangnick for that.
Okay. Graham, your ranking?
1, Ole. I'll say my piece in a bit. 2, Mourinho. 3, Ten Hag. 4, Van Gaal. 5, Rangnick. 6, David Moyes. I'm still a bit of a Solskjaer apologist because, yes, this is my Solskjaer bit. It all fell apart very quickly for him. But Man Utd had 2 good seasons of progress under him. They were third one season, then second the next season at a time when Pep and Klopp were in the Premier League and those teams were winning titles. And there were some incredible results and comebacks during that time. There was the win over PSG. They kept beating Man City at the Etihad as well. I think Solskjaer's still the only manager who's coached more than 5 games against Pep and has a winning record. And it was flawed. I don't think Man Utd were ever going to win a title, but that in retrospect, wasn't the bar for Manchester United under the Glazers in this era of Manchester United. And I remember that every time, one of the things I liked about Solskjaer's team was every time there was a bad result or two, and there was a few, like they got smashed in some games, there would always be a response. And even the season when it all fell apart, there was Taylor, I'm sure his memory hold this game, or has tried, they lose 5-0 to Liverpool. The very next game, they go away to Spurs and they smash them 3-0. So, I think Solskjaer was fun. There were comebacks. It also felt like that dressing room, that was the most like harmonious that dressing room had been post-Ferguson until a certain Portuguese ego arrived. And I do wonder how things go for Solskjaer if Ronaldo doesn't return and he doesn't try to like change the style without having the tactical nous to do it. But yeah, I think for me, Solskjaer was the best that I felt about Manchester United post-Ferguson.
All right. Joe, your rankings, are you also going to put David Moyes very low? I'd had him above Ten Hag myself, but hey, that's me.
Yeah, so I did a tier system instead of a pure rankings, and I have just one tier, and it's called Suck. Here's my list in no particular order. Moyes, Giggs, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Carrick, Rangnick, Ten Hag, Nistelrooy, and Amorim. So there you go. There's my I legitimately did not rank these. There's so much context that has to go into this that honestly I just don't have, and that I think really it's difficult even for most avid Manchester United fan to properly do this. Managers control something. They control relatively little in the grand scheme of things. So much has happened and changed that has been outside of the control of all these individuals. And there's also, as someone who was not paying attention to Manchester United when David Moyes was coaching them, there's just a complete lack of expertise for me on this topic. So I have graciously tiered them all for you, and I think I've done a good job.
Thanks, Joe. The Moyes, the real kicker for Moyes is he took over a team that won the title the season before, and they were nowhere near. So that's why Moyes is down on my list. I mean, looking at wins percentage, just to quickly go through that, Mourinho has the best win percentage, 54%. Then it's Ten Hag, 52%. Then it's joint between Solskjaer and Van Gaal, 51%. Then it's Moyes, 50%. Joe, I can't see you smiling, but you should be, because those are all very similar numbers, almost like the manager isn't the main issue with Manchester United. Rangnick was 38, and then Ruben Amorim is a long way adrift at 29%, so that's great. That bodes well for Manchester United. But besides Rangnick and Amorim, remarkably similar win percentages for all of those managers over like a decade.
Yeah, fully agreeing that the manager is not the issue at that club. It is strange with how many they've had that there aren't more like, then he went on, like the players they've had. Then he went on to like win a league or like have this success. It does feel like the manager isn't the problem, but the managers also haven't really helped them either, put it that way.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, actually, who? David Moyes has arguably had the best post.
Well, Moyes, I think Moyes clearly, has probably had the better. I mean, Rani's done well
sacked
with
by
Austria.
Fenerbahce? What are you talking about? Come on.
Oh boy. All right, there we go. Unless there's any more from Bri Guy's question, we can jump on from that one. Thank you very much indeed. Richard Gaines has been in touch with this one. Is there a team that it would make sense to purposely concede corners by the goalkeeper holding on to the ball for far too long? If their ability to defend corners and turn it into an attack is greater than their ability to build out on their own end. Obviously, this is referring to a rule that's been enforced. Is it just once, or has there been a few instances already this season? Just once, maybe on the opening weekend, where you hold on to the ball too long and you concede a corner.
Against Eberechi Eze.
Didn't it used to be an indirect free kick when that rule first came in like 20 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Taylor. Anyway, Graham, my feeling on this is it's a maybe, but my greater inclination is like the keeper would already have the ball if they're holding on to it for too long. They could start an attack often with the opponents already in their box. They could they could do the attacking.
That's where I landed as well. They could basically just do the attack that they could do from catching the ball from a goal kick, from a corner kick. Excuse me. Yeah. So just very quickly to try and put some logic on this, Brentford scored the most goals from opposition corners in the Premier League last season. They scored 5 goals from opposition corners. Bournemouth were also pretty prolific as far as these things go, with 3. Neither of those things are particularly surprising, given both of those teams are really good at quick counters and obviously corner kicks, if everyone's forward, gives you more of an opportunity to break out with numbers. It still feels like this would be... So I agree with you, Ryan. It feels like you'd just be imitating the scenario you would already have from having the ball in your hands, but also it just feels like a gamble to purposefully give the opposition an attacking opportunity for what is still a very slim chance of scoring a goal going the other way. Like Bournemouth led the Premier League last season, or excuse me, Brentford led the Premier League last season with 5 goals, doing that over the course of the whole season. And especially at a time when it feels like teams are putting more and more of an emphasis on corner kick routines, right? Like Arsenal are excellent at scoring from corners. Chelsea, I was reading, are getting better at it. It's one of the few ways that Manchester United can score goals right now. Brentford are also really strong at set pieces and attacking set pieces in their own right. So it feels like there might be more to lose than gain by doing this.
I take the premise of the question maybe more than Ryan or Graham do, because I think the idea would be when you just have an attack that like ends in a cross or ends in kind of a tame shot, you still have if you're the team that just took the shot, you still have people roughly where they are expected to be on a corner. If you have center backs committed, if you have fullback committed, if you have your like smallest, fastest attacking midfielder back as your only defender, there is a potential for catching a team out. Where this falls apart for me is the idea that like if it works once or twice, everyone is going to know what you're doing. And at that point, when you deliberately concede a corner by holding the ball, even if you have a really good like acting goalkeeper who can pretend like, I got flustered and lost track. Like I think teams will still recognize, and then maybe they'll still run design set pieces, but more likely is they will just take the corner short and then have possession in your defensive third, and now you're kind of backs against the wall defending. Yeah. So I think it could work in small doses. I'm not surprised it's Brentford that scored the most, because it does feel like a Thomas Frank like special to pull this out in one game where like this team way overcommits for corners and they always just lump it in the box. We're going to concede a couple corners and see what happens. Like maybe it could work as a one-off thing, but I think really quickly teams would catch on and punish you accordingly.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about this too. And Taylor, I'm glad that you highlighted the difference, because it's not the same of just claiming a cross and going to attack. The difference is that when you concede a corner and the opposition presumably are bringing up, 8 outfield players or whatever into your box or near it, that you no longer have to really play through all those players. Like you can bypass those players if you defend the corner well very easily, in a way that you can't do in basically any other action in soccer. So it's very different than just having your goalkeeper have the ball. But really, as I was thinking about this, I think 3 things have to happen for this strategy to make sense. And Taylor, you may have actually just added a 4th to the list. The first is that you have a bunch of massive defenders and speedy attackers so that you can go out there and defend corner kicks well and get out on the break. That's possible, sure. Number 2, the next thing that has to happen, you suck at building out from the back to create your own pseudo counterattacking situations. Because if you could just do this, where you can bypass the opposition, because that's what we're talking about as being the value of attacking off of a defensive corner kick, is that you can bypass the opposition easily. If you could do that in a way that doesn't give your opponent like a 0.04 or whatever XG chance on average from a corner kick, that would be better, because you don't have to concede anything in that situation. San Diego, we were talking about this on the Tuesday show. They do a great job of creating those pseudo counterattacks with their possession. If you can't do that, okay, maybe you want to have other ways to go out there and attack on the break. So maybe you consider doing this kind of thing. Number 3, your opponents have to press you for 90 minutes. Basically, like they cannot sit back and sit deep. And this is, Taylor, kind of what you're talking about. Of if they get wise to it and start playing the ball backwards or start not bringing up numbers forward, this doesn't work anymore, because defending a corner kick in this case is basically just a substitute for taking a goal kick under pressure. It's a different way of trying to play through pressure. It's a faster way. But if the opposition isn't pressing you, then this isn't working anymore. So you have to have a team that is willing to send all of these numbers forward, and that's, Taylor, what you're getting at. I think finding a team that fits the first 2 things, where they have a bunch of big lads in the back and speedy guys in the front, is possible. Finding a team that sucks at building out from the back is also possible. But finding an opponent that is willing to throw numbers forward so recklessly, so often against you, feels like that doesn't exist to me. So I think there's something to this in a vacuum, maybe, but I don't think in reality that you would ever actually be able to pull this kind of thing off against a thinking opponent that has a brain that can adapt to you.
Yeah. Joe, it just generally makes me anxious that you are forcing a turnover of possession, after all, in this strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the trade... Oh, are you talking about conceding a corner? Is that what you mean, right? Yeah. It is. That should make you anxious. We also have to recognize, though, that there are 2 sides of every decision in soccer. Like, teams that are choosing to build from the back are living with the risk that if they lose the ball, they're likely to give up a high-quality chance. So if we say that the 2 actions here, the 2 choices are you concede your own corner kick, or you have to pass your way out from the back. Now, that could be passing short or could be passing long. Regardless of what road you choose to take, you are giving something up. Like, if you pass the ball short out of the back from a goal kick, you're conceding maybe a high-quality chance or at least the possibility of one. If you boot the ball long from a goal kick, you're maybe conceding a loss of possession more often than not. And if you concede a corner kick, you're probably conceding, a 0.04 XG chance. So all of these things are concessions. I think that the corner kick concession is the worst, so ultimately I agree with you. But there is that sort of nuance to every decision that forms how teams play and how they build their rosters.
And also, the flaw in the premise of this question is like you can only do this now because of the new 8-second rule resulting in a corner kick.
Right, they would just
you
change
could
the
also
rule.
just turn around and put the ball behind for a corner kick, like
Right over your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So teams have been able to do this for decades.
They might have to
Centuries
start
even.
doing that because they won't enforce this rule for much longer because it's just a start of the season thing, right?
I heard a referee for the first time in person with my own ears counting down from the halfway line at an Albion game a couple of weeks ago. It was the first time I've heard it, where they were going 1, 2, 3, 4,
Really?
like across the pitch. Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't like it.
Sounds like gladiators. That sounds exciting. I like that. Very good. Richard Gaines, thank you very much indeed for your question. One more quick break from us. When we come back, we're talking about the club teams who'd be strongest if they could pull players just from their city and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our listener questions. Nathan Wyman has been in touch with this question. If club teams were like national teams and the players had to be from that city and or its adjacent boroughs, which club team would be the best in the world? Taylor, my inclination here is immediately to go to my hometown of London, specifically South London, Concrete Catalonia, as it's known. Transfermarkt data from 2024 says the value of London players, 1.6 billion euros, London-born and raised players. The city that was second to it was Paris with 688, so half as much, basically. Yep. So, I would imagine the answer probably lays with a London team.
Well, there's more of them though, right? Like, is the equation not there? Yeah, you're right, Ryan. It's a lot less Paris, but Paris basically have the city to themselves now. They've got Paris FC literally across the road in Ligue 1, but I think my broad point still stands. Whereas there's like, about 30 league teams in London? They would have to divvy up that 1.6 billion euro talent pool.
So you're saying, Graham, it's not. I interpreted this question as like London FC exists now, and London have access to all these players, and they get to play Madrid in the Champions League final, and it's Madrid, all the Madrid players. You're saying that in the world that you've created, you have to divvy up all of that talent across every existing club team in London.
It's almost
Which
like
club
Joe
team would be the best in the world?
Went with the question, and Graham made up a question to poop on London.
It can be interpreted both ways.
No,
right?
I'm literally answering the question. The question says, which club team would be the best in the world?
If club teams were like national teams, that implies a world that doesn't exist, and we're making a new world.
No, if club teams were like national teams and players had to be, I'm literally answering the question, and which club teams would be the best in the world? But anyway, London,
that's fair.
if it's London
different
FC,
perspectives.
they're top of the table.
Which club team from that city would be best in the world?
richest
I'm
one.
going to say London. I'm going to say Paris. I think those are two good shouts. Sao Paulo also on my list. There is some solid defensive talent. You've got a starting back four of Emerson Royale, Marquinhos, Eder Militao, and Alexandro. Solid is maybe overstating. But yeah, I mean, London really does give you a really good combination. You've got like Bukayo Saka in there. Harry Kane is in there. Michael Olise is in there, having been born in London. So I think that was pretty good. Declan Rice would give you some depth. And then the other one that I think is worth noting, there's a bunch of different ones, but the other one that I think you could put together a somewhat good to strong starting 11 would be Manchester, where you've got, if you're including the surrounding boroughs as well. I had to text Ryan to ask what is and isn't included in like that Manchester catchment area. But I would say if you go with the Manchester team, Kieran Trippier, James Tarkowski, Axel Tuanzebe, Brendan Williams, Phil Foden, Kobe Minu, Jack Harrison, Cole Palmer, Marcus Rashford, Dwight McNeil. That would be your all-Manchester team. That's decent. That's decent enough. I'm not sure they're beating some of the other teams ahead of them, but I think this would be an interesting one. I kind of like the Geographic Club World Cup. Don't give Gianni ideas.
Too late.
Oh, dear. It's got 48 cities in it already, and it's going to be every 2 years. Joe, what was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm actually now fascinated to hear Graham's thoughts, because it's totally possible that Graham interpreted this question correctly, and I'm very curious to hear what the divided up club teams are going to look like, and if that changes the answer. I had Paris ultimately on top of this, even over London. So let me read you a couple of the Paris names.
Center mid is where it falls apart, Joe.
Excuse you, Adrian Rabiot would like a word. Taylor, thank you very much.
An angry
So
word.
would his mum.
An angry, nice. Pogba also fits in there. Again, you're still correct in what you just said. Mbappe, Saliba, Kante as well. I'm like, let's just pretend it's 2018 all over again, right? Pogba, Rabiot, Coman, and Nkunku were all on that list for me. They look real good. Really, my takeaway from this question was, man, we got a long way to go here in the U.S. because I tried to do an American version of this. Like, what would the best U.S. option be? And I had to go historic, first of all. And I ended up with New Jersey. Can I do New Jersey? Kearney, New Jersey, maybe, if we need to be more specific. John Horrocks, Tab Ramos, and Tony Miola. Tim Howard also once lived there, if we can call that a pick. It's just so much harder to do this with the U.S. I mean, New York City and the surrounding area, I believe right now you have a number of current U.S. men's national team players, but still, it's a reminder of how amazingly good some of these cities are at developing talent in Europe and South America, and not just those. Like, there are less heralded cities on this list as well. I do want to close with one other obvious answer, which is Barcelona, that hasn't been named yet. Barcelona, and specifically the Barcelona province, if I am allowed to expand a little bit broader. Grimm's favorite player of all time, it's not Scott McTominay, it's not John McGinn, it's Eric Garcia. So Eric Garcia leads this list. Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Xavi is on this list. Adama Traore, just to have completely polar opposite players. Barcelona, we know, develop an absurd amount of talent in running through this list. I was both struck by how much talent there is there, and also how much talent comes from other parts of Spain to join La Masia as well. Like, Pedri's not from there. We already know this. A number of their most elite talents really aren't even from that specific area, but Barcelona have to be on this list at least somewhere.
Yeah, okay. Graham, let's interpret the question as you did with existing club teams. Do you have a London team answer? And why is it Crystal Palace?
Is that they're South London, right? So
Yeah.
that would be why, because South London is just an absolute hotbed. I didn't go that granular just because, as I say, there's so many London teams that I was I was working the equation out that way. So on that basis, my answer is PSG. Who there's only two top flight teams in Paris for a huge city, and all the players that Joe listed off that Paris has. I would have actually, in terms of their value, I would have thought they'd be a little bit closer to London, especially when you've got like players like Mbappe and Barcola and Desiree Doué, William Saliba, Ousmane Dembele. Like they have proper superstars, not that London don't. But yeah, PSG were by far and away ahead at the top of my list. Then I had Ajax. They're 10th on Transfer Market's city value list, so they've got 379 million euros worth of players. And Amsterdam, Ajax have the city to themselves in terms of being like a top team. I had Barcelona and Espanyol for the city of Barcelona. I don't know how it would work if we're taking La Masia players and putting them in Espanyol using this equation, but only two top flight teams in Barcelona. I'm not including Girona, who are obviously from outside kind of the more rural areas of Catalonia. And then I've got Lisbon, Sporting and Benfica in there as well, because there's only two teams and they are on that transfer market list, like 536 million euros. So that's how I looked at it.
Yeah. All right.
Graham, can I ask you another question? This is not related to the way you interpreted the question. Do you have a sense of which Scottish city would win this? Like, is there a hotbed in Scotland for developing talent, or is it just the obvious Edinburgh, best city in the country kind of thing?
Genuinely, not even doing the bit. Not Edinburgh. Rugby is Edinburgh's more of a rugby city. Glasgow historically is just clearly the answer. Having said that, more recently, and I think this is because of the performance schools, not to get too in the weeds about this, but about 10 years ago we created performance schools around the country, and they have been really quite productive and prolific. So there's more of a spread now than there maybe ever has been, but I think Glasgow is still like traditionally the clear answer.
They've been productive and prolific at soccer, do you mean?
Sorry, Graham, that's my bad, dude.
Set me up there, Joe.
My fault.
My
fault.
If it wasn't for us, there would be no international football until someone invented it further down the line, which definitely would have happened. I'm not sure my logic checks out.
A month or two later in the north of
Yeah.
England. Yeah. Very good. Nathan Wyman, thank you very much indeed for your question there. I hope that was a useful thought exercise. One more question for this episode from Joel Sundquist, who says, "Hey guys, my son is a type 1 diabetic and was diagnosed a little over 2 years ago. When he was diagnosed, he thought his whole life was going to be fundamentally different. The best thing we did for him was find professional athletes, especially in soccer, who had the same diagnosis. Jordan Morris and Nacho are both type 1 diabetics. My question is, What are some of the other soccer players who have the same or similar life-changing medical diagnoses that they've overcome to become professional players? I know how much it's meant to him, to his son, to see professional athletes who are dealing with the same issues he faces. And my hope is that by exploring this question, other young people can be motivated to not let a serious health condition stop them from chasing their dreams too. Thank you for all that you do, says Joel. This is a really good question, Joel.
Yeah, that rules.
I'll kick off the nominations, Joe, with Chris Heggart of Orange County Soccer Club, midfielder, who was at Charlotte FC as well, actually. So I actually wrote about Chris a few years ago when I was working with Charlotte FC, and there is an article, if you Google it, that exists that explains his story. At the age of 7, Chris was. There was a scout that said he was the best player of his age in the United States, which is a bold statement, I suppose, when you're 7. But it was spoke to his talent. Not long after, in fact, a matter of months after, he was playing in a local tournament. He got struck by a ball in the stomach. Pain failed to subside. Went to hospital. Found out he had a malignant cancerous tumor. He had pediatric liver cancer at 7 years old. Had a liver transplant, 6 rounds of chemotherapy. While he was in hospital as a 7 to 8-year-old, he was visited by Sasha Kleiston, and later played against Sasha Kleiston when he played for Charlotte FC in Charlotte's first ever home game in 2022, which is an awesome story. But for Chris, who is a super nice guy as well, I think, Joe, that just shows the exact triumph over health adversity that Joel was referring to here, and he's a great kid as well.
That's such a good story. I'd forgotten. So I know a good bit of Chris Heggart's story. I'd forgotten about the Sasha Kleiston visiting him in the hospital and then them playing against each other. That was an awesome moment because Kleiston would have been at the Galaxy, right? I think when they played each other towards the end of his career.
He's from Los Angeles.
Still lives in California now, Sasha Kleiston. That's a great shout. I will go with the first one on my list, and I think it's telling and hopefully encouraging that we can make a list, right? I mean, these are not things that we would wish upon people, but it is amazing to see how people can overcome. Like that is such an encouragement to me. Georgie Manungu is on my list. The same Georgie Manungu who just dusted Inter Miami and Lionel Messi apparently after that game. It's come out that he was just ripping into Pedro de la Vega and Obed Vargas during that match as they were shutting him down. Messi apparently said to de la Vega, this is a bit secondhand, but Messi apparently said to de la Vega, I think this is from the Major League Journeyman podcast, that you'll never play for Argentina as long as I'm around. Don't worry, Messi. He was never going to because he's not that good. Needs to work on his trash talk
game. Pedro de la Vega's face that he responded the same, like, yeah, I'm not playing for Argentina, dude. Like, it's all good.
That'd be my reaction in the moment. It's like, yeah, well, screw you, Leo. Like, I suck. Oh, wait. And then afterwards you come away thinking,
I played you there.
Yeah, that got me, I guess. Georgie Manungo, Seattle Sounders winger, who has just gotten his first call up to the national team as well. Really bright, talented young player. He had an issue with his left eye that began to swell years ago, and it was discovered that he would need a procedure that could necessitate the removal of that eye. That did not prove necessary, but eventually he lost his vision in that left eye. So he plays with one eye. I think at one point he was supposed to wear goggles and just decided, like, nah, I'm not doing that. And sees only, I believe, out of his right eye. Like, does not have vision in his left eye, and it's still made it to be an international soccer player. Like, that is amazing to me. Not only does that maybe just completely disprove Pochettino's whole one-eye dominant thing, or maybe it actually proves it. I'm not really sure. But that you could go from a situation where you only have the ability to see with one eye in a sport that is so much built on space and understanding where the space is and checking your shoulder and scanning. It's amazing. Like, the human body is amazing, and that sort of perseverance, I think, is awesome. I have other noms, but I'll table them for now to let somebody else go.
Very good. Graham, any noms?
Yeah, so I think we just mentioned him there, the trash talker himself, Lionel Messi. Had at 10 years old diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, and that's part of the lore with Messi because that's how he gets to Barcelona, right? Taylor, the club offers to pay for the treatment that he needs, and he goes over to Catalonia, and the rest is history. Another great example of an elite level player overcoming a health issue is Hannah Hampton. So I mentioned this after the Women's Euros final that England won, but Hannah Hampton was born with an eye condition that affects her depth perception. So the fact that she's now a European champion goalkeeper is frankly ridiculous. It's like picking the one vacation that theoretically would be harder for someone with that specific health condition. And I think that's such a great tale of triumphing over adversity. And just finally, on specifically diabetic players, the one I always think of in Scotland is a guy called Scott Allen, who is type 1 diabetic. He actually goes to my gym alongside James McCarthy, and I've spoken to him a couple of times via a mutual connection. And he had a great career. He played at a really top level, played for Celtic, played in the Premier League for a couple seasons as well. So yeah, I think there's some inspiration specifically in Joel's case and his son's case in Scott Allen.
Did he play for Celtic when that was still like an achievement?
Wow.
Yes, he did. Wow.
Oh my God.
Just want to make sure.
He did when they were good.
Okay, cool.
Wow.
Yeah, on the diabetes front, Gary Mabbutt was one that I wasn't as familiar with, but he's the first senior level England player to have type 1 diabetes and represent England. Played over 600 matches for Spurs. I think he would be a good shout for type 1 diabetes. Late co-host Daryl Grove, also type 1 diabetes. So you could go into podcasting if that's a route you want to go. Messi was probably the answer for me. Graham's already gone over that one. And then I think David Beckham, Leroy Sana, and Paul Scholes, to name a few, all suffered from chronic respiratory issues or asthma issues. Beckham, I think, has talked about having to hide that and feeling like it would limit his career and would limit how seriously he was taken. Like if he just pulled out his inhaler, I think he was afraid people would perceive him as weak. So he's become more of an advocate for asthma and respiratory issues as he has gone on. So I think lots of different issues, lots of different things overcome by different professionals.
Yeah, and can I just mention David Brooks, the Bournemouth player who in 2021 was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin lymphoma and was out of the game for a long time. I think basically missed a year of his career, and he has started this season on fire. He's been brilliant for Bournemouth. So again, to Joe's point, like there's a list. Like we could have gone on and on. We could have done a whole episode on this, and that's not to say that overcoming these challenges is easy, but clearly there's a good number of inspirational cases out there.
We mentioned Eric Abidal as well. I think.
Yeah, he's on my list. Yeah. You want to do it? I mean, I'll run through. 2011, Barcelona announced that Eric Abidal had a tumor in his liver. Underwent surgery 2 days later. Had a transplant from his cousin in 2012, so that's the next year. And then comes back and plays soccer in 2013, which is mind-boggling to me. Goes and plays for Monaco, plays for Olympiacos. That kind of rules, even outside of all the rest of this. Then goes back to Barcelona and is in their front office and gets fired. But, that's how it goes. You got to put yourself in positions to be fired at FC Barcelona. That one is amazing to me. Sebastian Haller and his testicular cancer coming back and playing 6 months, I think, after he sort of finished his 2 operations. Final. It's amazing. Like that is, I still kind of can't believe that. And then the other one that came to mind for me, because I think this, to be honest, of all of these moments, is like the one that will stick with me forever, is Christian Eriksen coming back after his cardiac arrest. And it's not an illness in the traditional sense of like a lot of these other things that we're talking about, but a moment that was incredibly serious at Euro 2020 and seemed terrifying, frankly, at the time. Returning to play at the top, I was going to say top level. Manchester United is where he landed. But returning to play in the Premier League.
Brentford. He played for Brentford before Manchester United. That's the top level.
Sorry, we're dumping on Graham. I had to spread that out a little bit. Amazing. Just an amazing story.
You didn't have to.
Well, you're right, but it was fun.
In terms of type 1 diabetics and a different sport, hand egg specifically, Jay Cutler, I believe, is type 1 diabetic. And Joel, if you're looking for someone outside of sports, one of my favorite musical artists are a band called Haim, Estelle Haim, the bass player. She's type 1 diabetic and is very much an advocate for type 1 diabetics, talks about it a lot. And I think it was a good role model, and Haim are awesome. So that is one more I would add too. Joel Sundqvist, thank you very much indeed for your question. Thank you to everybody who's asked a question on this here episode. If you'd like to do so, couple of ways you can do it. You can go to totalsoccershow.com/questions, ask a question there, or you can go to patreon.com/totalsoccershow and support us. You can ask a question in our Discord. We'll come say hi. Joe will say something witty to you. He promises. He'll do it.
Word for word, just something witty in quotes. That's it.
That's it. That's what I said.
I didn't say you were going to have a good time. I just said you were going to be in the Discord. You all right?
Everyone has a good time in the Discord. Come and join us there. Thank you very much indeed. Tanner Rockwell, thank you very much for your answers to your questions that have been posed to you today.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you very much indeed, Graham Ruthven.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
Thank you, Joe Lowry.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
And thank you very much, listener, for joining us on this episode and all others. We'll be back on the feed next week, of course. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Actually, we're going to be back on the feed, more specifically for the US game.
Yeah.
Weekend, aren't we? Yeah. Almost went off script there. But do join us on that one and all subsequent episodes. Listener, thank you for joining us. But for now, bye!